Hi everyone, welcome back. As you know, we're in the midst of evaluating each fundraising channel as we work towards creating a fund development plan. So far, we've evaluated annual giving channels and major giving channels. This segment will focus on planned giving channels. Just to recap, planned gifts are philanthropic commitments that are made in the present but not allocated until the future. The most common type of planned gifts are bequests. Other planned giving vehicles include life income gifts and gifts of real property. I won't go into the technical details of planned giving vehicles in this segment, but I'll give you a quick overview of the main ones. A bequest is a gift of money or other assets that a donor makes through their estate. They'll put a provision for a nonprofit in their will or living trust. At the time of their death, the nonprofit will receive the assets. Life income gifts describe various planned giving vehicles that allow donors to gift money or assets to a nonprofit for the nonprofit to invest. Depending on the type of life income gift, the portion of the annual income from the investment will be paid out to the donor, a donor-directed beneficiary, or the nonprofit. It would take a separate segment to go through the specifics of all life income gifts and other planned giving vehicles, but I recommend that you do some research on your own to learn about these. Real property includes any tangible, non-cash assets. Most often this will be used to refer to houses or other real estate. The nonprofit and donor agree on what will be done with the gift. Often the nonprofit will sell the property and use the funds gained from the sale of for a donor-specified purpose. The steps for evaluating planned giving channels are similar whether you already have a designated planned giving fundraising program or not. Most higher education institutions and hospitals will already have planned giving programs since they receive the majority of planned gifts. I found that small and even mid-sized nonprofits often do not have planned giving programs at all. Remember, you let the data drive your decisions. So you use this step in the process to gather data that will help you to make decisions about your fundraising programs in the next step of the fund development planning process. The first step in evaluating planned giving channels is to determine the right scope of your planned giving program. In order to consider planned gift fundraising, an organization needs to be in existence for a minimum of 10 years. 20 years would be even better. You don't want to start pushing for planned gifts unless you're confident that your organization will still be around by the time the gift comes in. Planned gifts, by definition, won't be received until the future. So if a nonprofit is having trouble making ends meet today, they need to be focusing on their fundraising efforts on attaining immediate funds, not future funds. When deciding on the scope of a planned giving program, it's important to consider the status of your prospect pool. Age is an important consideration. If 90% of your prospect pool is under 40, it would make more sense to build out your major giving program in the near term and look to build a planned giving program in 5 to 10 years as your prospects begin to near retirement age. That's when they'll usually start considering planned gifts. In this example, the scope of the planned giving program would be limited to creating and cultivating a planned giving pipeline and only start actively soliciting planned gifts in 5 to 10 years. One of the most important indicators of planned giving potential is past giving history, such as consecutive years of giving, progressive increases in gifts, and number of gifts made to an organization. The higher each of these statistics are, the greater likelihood of receiving a planned gift from those prospects. So if your organization does not have prospects with this type of promising giving history, then your resources would be put to better use by focusing on building those statistics rather than creating a planned giving program that will be set up for failure due to a lack of adequate prospects. Like you did when evaluating your major giving program, you should identify the planned giving prospect base using a combination of these factors. Let's use the following factors to identify the planned giving prospect pool. First, any donor who is over the age of 50 and has given at least one gift to your organization in the last 15 years. Second, any donor who has made a gift 5 years in a row within the last 10 years. Third, any donor has made a gift 3 years in a row within the last 5 years. And lastly, any donor who has made 20 gifts or more to your organization. As I covered in the snapshot overview of our fictitious nonprofit's prospect base, we know that the organization has a serious problem with retaining donors from year to year. Since consecutive years of giving is a direct influencer of planned giving likelihood, I would recommend that this nonprofit not start a designated fundraising effort for planned gifts at this time. Instead, they need to find a way to improve consecutive giving and promote increased giving from their prospect base, and then reevaluate the scope of their potential planned giving program in about 3 years. This doesn't mean that they should forget about planned gifts for the next 3 years, though. It just means that their efforts should be focused on getting their organization ready for a planned giving program in the future. Let's plug this information into our running list. For data, we have consecutive years of giving directly correlating with planned giving likelihood, which you'd know based on your industry research. Next, we have number of gifts directly correlating with planned giving likelihood, and increasing gift amounts directly correlating with planned giving likelihood. We also know that our donor retention rates and percent of increased donors are currently low. As we interpret this data, we see that since retention rates, average gift amounts, and percent of increased donors are currently low, this isn't the right time to start a planned giving program. We also know that we need to solidify annual giving program efforts to increase the pool of planned giving prospects. For potential recommendations, we could provide incentives for donors who give multiple years in a row. Usually this is done through recognition programs for consecutive giving. We could also encourage donors to make multi-year pledges. Could implement multiple asks throughout the year for various giving channels to increase the number of gifts from donors. Could revise the messaging to encourage increased giving each year. And lastly, we should begin tracking planned giving prospects and have them staffed by a frontline fundraiser. At this point in the process, you should have a comprehensive understanding of your prospect base. So you should know if there's the potential to raise funds through planned giving vehicles. If you're unsure, try surveying your likeliest planned gift donors about whether or not they would consider making these types of gifts. Once you have a handle on your planned gift prospect base, estimate how much you think you can raise from the different channels, and then estimate the time frame for when you would receive the funds from these different planned giving channels. That's how you'll determine what the ideal scope of your planned giving program should be. While you can identify the ideal scope of the program, your organization may not have the resources to support a fundraising program of that scope. We'll cover how to conduct resource analysis in the next steps of the fund development planning process. For now, stick with the ideal scope. It's always important to make decisions about the best way to do things before cutting back. If you decide to move forward with launching or revising a planned giving program, then you need to create gift acceptance policies. Gift acceptance policies will be based on your evaluation of the appropriate scope of the program and will govern charitable giving to the organization. For planned gift acceptance policies, you'll need to determine what types of planned gifts you'll accept. Bequests can always be accepted because it's relatively cheap and easy to do. The vast majority of planned gifts you'll receive will be charitable bequests. But what about other planned gifts? You need to determine which planned gifts you'll accept, and you need to make specific decisions about how you'll accept them. One of the most important things to consider is regarding restrictions on acceptance. The plain fact is that some people try to pawn off their junk on nonprofits so that they can get rid of it and also get a substantial tax deduction. They usually do this through gifts of real property. I've actually seen a slumlord try to donate a house that should have been condemned to a nonprofit. Gift acceptance policies prevent this from happening. There are also good-hearted individuals who want to gift valuable property, but it wouldn't be able to be used by the nonprofit. I worked for a university who had a donor that wanted to bequeath them an extremely expensive, rare concert piano. Unfortunately, the school didn't have a music program or any real use for it. It wouldn't be right to accept this gift knowing that it wouldn't live up to the donor's expectations. Gift acceptance policies usually establish a gift acceptance committee that conducts an unbiased review of potential gifts and makes a determination about if the organization should accept it or not. In this case, since the piano wasn't essential to the mission of the university and would also cost a lot of money to maintain, the Gift Acceptance Committee politely declined the donation. There are many different factors to consider when developing gift acceptance policies that I can't go into detail about in this short segment. There are a lot of resources available to nonprofits interested in developing or revising planned gift acceptance policies, and I definitely recommend that you look into these. Once you know the potential of your planned giving prospect base, the ideal scope of your planned giving program, and have set parameters for the planned gift acceptance, you're ready to start implementing your plans. If you've decided to hold off on launching a designated planned giving program, that doesn't mean that planned giving doesn't have a place in your short-term fundraising strategy. You should identify the steps that you need to take to get ready to launch a planned giving program. Implement those plans and set a date for reevaluation. Remember, you can still accept cash bequests without having designated planned giving officers. You can passively inform prospects of this by simply adding a line to your mailings and marketing materials that says, "Consider including us in your will. Call us for more information." If you're ready to move forward with a planned giving program, your next steps depend on the scope of your program. If you're setting up a new planned giving channel, you'll need to open corresponding accounts and develop procedures for accepting, maintaining, and administering each channel. You'll also need to train staff on these planned giving vehicles and internal procedures. Like major giving, planned giving programs often have frontline fundraisers who meet with planned giving prospects and manage the relationships. Sometimes though, instead of frontline fundraisers doing the qualification stage with these prospects, mass qualification will be done either through surveys or talking to people on the phone. Based on responses, the top planned giving prospects will then be assigned to frontline fundraisers who will start by cultivating them. In order to determine how many frontline fundraisers you'll need, you'll follow the same process that you followed for the major gift staffing evaluation. For planned giving, you also need to develop a marketing strategy for planned gifts aimed at educating prospects about and increasing their interest in planned gifts. Most planned giving programs involve regular cultivation mailings to the planned giving prospect base, as well as print materials and integration with annual fund solicitations. Organizations sometimes offer seminars or workshops to educate prospects on planned gifts. My advice to you that is if you choose to do seminars, you should partner with estate planners, attorneys, and/or financial advisors who specialize in this area. They are most knowledgeable about planned giving and are happy to do the seminars because it helps them to drum up estate planning business. Lastly, I recommend that nonprofits create recognition societies that provide acknowledgement and benefits to planned gift donors. These should be separate from annual giving recognition societies to help encourage planned gifts and to steward planned gift donors in a meaningful way. I just want to conclude this segment by stressing the importance of planned giving fundraising programs. I find that many organizations never work on planned giving because it doesn't provide short-term results. I've even worked with people who didn't care about planned giving because they knew that they wouldn't be with the organization in a few years. But this is just the wrong attitude to have. Think about what someone needs to feel if they're putting someone, like a friend or family member, in their will. It's a big decision, and if someone puts your nonprofit in their will or trusts you with their retirement assets, they're basically saying that they consider your nonprofit to be part of their family. That's a big deal. And not to be all about the money, but research consistently shows that after someone gives a planned gift or commitment, their giving substantially increases during their lifetime. So planned giving does have short-term results as well. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions about planned giving. Thanks for tuning in.